Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nico, the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about a breakout at each of the positions in fantasy football for 2021. Now, what a breakout technically is up to interpretation. To me, it's going to be a running back, wide receiver, or tight end that has not gotten over 1,000 yards yet in their career. And for a quarterback, it's a guy that hasn't really had that huge season yet that people are talking about, oh, maybe this guy is a top 5 player at the quarterback position. Maybe he's a breakout because we saw some of it last season and we think that he's going to be able to up the echelon that he put up in 2020. So before I get into this video, I would like to ask if that at any point inside this breakout video you end up enjoying, you end up having a great time, you might want to break out your hand, take it out of your pants, and smack that subscribe button like it owes you some money. I would really appreciate that. If you're new, and if you're not new and you just ended up enjoying, please make sure to hit the like button. It helps me out a ton. And if you guys want to list your breakouts at every single position, give me a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, or tight end, or just give me one. I love to respond down below in the comments and have a nice discussion. So we will begin with the quarterback position, and my breakout at the quarterback position for the 2021 fantasy football season is going to be Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Jalen Hurts obviously coming into his second year in the NFL. Now, obviously, this could go completely out the window if the Philadelphia Eagles end up drafting a quarterback, but reports that I saw based upon yesterday are that the Eagles are locked in with Jalen Hurts. Now, again, these NFL executives, that how this information gets leaked, you don't necessarily know, right? I mean, we remember just 2 years ago, Cliff Kingsbury says Rosen's his guy. Then at number 1, they draft the guy who's 5'7" in Kyler Murray. So you never really know, but I'm going to go ahead for this scenario and believe that Jalen Hurts is the guy because that's what I believe as of right now. He finished as quarterback number 35 last season, obviously, but he only played in 4 games. He technically played in, I believe, 14 total games because they'd put him in for like these weird packages, right? You're thinking, oh, now it's time for Jalen Hurts. He goes out there, he plays kind of well, and then they just sit him back down and they rolled Carson Wentz out there until eventually that did change. And then we saw Jalen Hurts for a couple of games in the season. He threw for 148 times for 77 completions, gaining 1,061 passing yards with 6 touchdowns to 4 INTs, as well as rushing the ball 63 times for 357 yards and 3 touchdowns. That is going to be the biggest point when discussing Jalen Hurts in fantasy football. Now, there's this thing on Twitter or in the fantasy football community known as the Konami quarterback code, which is the fact that, oh, if your quarterback's good at running, they're going to be great at fantasy football, blah, 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 okay? I don't care about that shit. What I care about is a guy that I think is going to step up to the next level. Jalen Hurts showed us with these bum wide receivers that he is good, okay? Now, I'm not saying that Jalen Reagor is going to be a bum. Was not very good. Dallas Goedert was his best weapon. In my opinion, without a doubt, was his best weapon. Now, they should be bringing in someone early on in the draft, whether that's Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith. They should be bringing in a wide receiver to help out Jalen Hurts, which makes me think he's going to have an even higher chance of breaking out. And with the rushing upside on top of it, that just takes him to the next level. We can see that the 4 games that he ended up playing, he was averaging 26.29 points per game. And if you transition that to a full season, it's going to be 421 points, which is very fucking good. But obviously, you can't just take 4 games and make them 16 games because there's going to be likelihood that Jalen Hurts struggles in a couple of games, puts up some duds, but in the other games, he balls out. So that's what's going to end up happening. He had 33 passing attempts per game with 17.25 completions, 1.25 passing touchdowns per game with 229.75 passing yards per game with 0.75 rushing touchdowns per game, as well as 68 rushing yards per game, one off of being very nice. Now, if you put those rushing yards up to what a whole season would be, with 68 a game, he'd be getting 1,088 rushing yards. If he is able to throw for 3,000 yards, and he is able to rush for 1,000 yards, there is a potential that this guy could legitimately be the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football in 2020. I know for a fact, as long as he is the guy in Philadelphia, I'm going to be very bought in to Jalen Hurts in 2021 and have him on a whole lot of my teams. Now, I personally believe where he's going right now is like quarterback 14. That's not going to fucking happen in August. People are really going to hop on board of the Jalen Hurts train, so I'm going to go ahead and stamp my flag into the ground and tell you guys right now that I love Jalen Hurts before everyone else hops on the train with me come draft season. Next up here, we got running back, and I'm going to go with another young guy, J.K. Dobbins of the Baltimore Ravens. This is going to be his second year in the NFL, got drafted in the same draft, obviously, as Jalen Hurts. J.K. Dobbins coming into the NFL draft was looked at as a very complete running back with both receiving as well as rushing, kind of high skill set. Now, they got rid of Mr. Big Trust Woo Marky Mark Ingram, so now it's going to be J.K. Dobbins as well as Mr. Gus Bus Edwards in the backfield. We've seen a lot of games where J.K. Dobbins was getting a decent amount of carries, and he was really starting to light it up. He finished the season as running back 24 in PPR, 21.5 PPR, as well as running back 17 in standard, playing in 15 games, but technically he only started one because he wasn't given enough opportunity to technically count it as a start, at least based upon fantasydata.com, where I get a lot of the data for these videos. Dobbins averaged 11.2 PPR points per game, 10.6 half PPR points per game, and 10 standard points per game in 2020. What was very interesting when I was looking at his stats was, I didn't even want to bring it up in the video, necessarily go over the numbers, but I wanted to kind of talk about it, how I thought the numbers would be very different when discussing between with it having Mark Ingram in the game versus without, and frankly, it wasn't that much of a difference, which kind of surprised me. But I think as he gets older and is in another year of this Baltimore Ravens system, a team that is really going to look to run the ball a whole bunch, I think J.K. Dobbins is going to be headed straight to the moon when it comes to fantasy football value. He averaged 11.2 PPR points per game, 10.6 half PPR points per game, and 10 standard points per game in 2020. He only rushed the rock 134 times for 805 yards and 9 touchdowns, as well as only getting 24 targets for 18 receptions for 120 yards, and he had 2 total fumbles on the season. I genuinely think that we are going to see an increased workload in the rushing aspect of the game as well as the receiving aspect of the game to make J.K. Dobbins get even better. And what's going to be even better is if the Ravens pull their head out of their ass and draft a wide receiver or bring in a wide receiver. I'm not calling for them to bring in fucking Kenny Golladay, because the likelihood of that happening, obviously, we'll know today if he ends up getting tagged or not, but I'm not saying that. We just need some guys with a legitimate set of hands on them. That's all I'm asking for. Besides Hollywood Brown, besides Mark Andrews, even Hollywood Brown has these games where the motherfucker is wide open, drops it, he has a bad game. There's no one around Lamar Jackson to set him up for this success, and if he's able to pass better, then the defense isn't going to be as scared of the run. Maybe they're thinking, hey, Lamar's actually fucking good at passing now, and he's no longer a running back like people were talking about, and then boom, now they're fucking scared of the pass, and J.K. Dobbins is rushing for a zillion yards a game. Especially, there's also a scenario where Gus Bus goes down. Knock on wood, we hope that don't happen. But J.K. Dobbins would be even further elevated in that scenario. Next up, we got the wide receiver position. If you guys have enjoyed again thus far, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now, for the wide receiver, I'm going to go with my boy, Deontay, a.k.a., if you guys watched the live streams last year, Deontay Johnson, because if you type in Deontay Johnson, for some reason it autocorrects to Deontay, so we were getting a lot of questions about Deontay Johnson, who is not a real person. Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver. Now, the news is, the rumor has it that Juju Smith-Schuster's time is getting lower, and he is going to be gone and potentially be a Las Vegas Raider, maybe a New York Football Jet. Now, that doesn't fucking matter because he's going to be gone. But if he's still there, I don't fucking care. I think Deontay Johnson's still going to be good, but as a whole, obviously, I think it opens the door much more if Juju ends up leaving for the Raiders, the Jets, or wherever he ends up going. Now, Deontay Johnson is what we would describe as a guy with just terrible dropping issues. I'm going to get into the numbers, but if you guys had Deontay Johnson last year, I know for a fact, because I saw it in my comment section, where this guy leaves you out to dry. He left you on red at 2 a.m. You're calling him for a fucking booty call, and he just fucked you right in the ass by not actually doing it. Maybe that's what you wanted. You wanted to drill him. He didn't let you do that, okay? That's just a metaphor, I believe, is what they would say in the English class, maybe? I don't know. But with that said, Deontay Johnson had bad drop issues, which we're going to talk about. He still finished despite that. Wide receiver 21 in PPR, 22.5 PPR, and 26 in standard leagues with playing 15 games. He did end up getting hurt week 3 and week 5 and put up very bad games with below 1 point in each of those games. Averaged 14.8 PPR points per game, 11.9 half PPR points per game, and 8.9 standard points per game. He had 144 total targets on the season, 9.6 per game. You reverse that, it's 6.9. Very nice. Number 6 at wide receiver, 88 receptions, 5.9 per game, 13th at wide receiver. But this is where Diontae Johnson gets down bad, right? You saw the targets, you saw the receptions. Why does he have so many targets with so little receptions? That's because he dropped 11 balls, according to Player Profiler. Now, to me, that seems low based upon what I've fucking seen out of Diontae Johnson, because there was a game, I believe, up against the Washington football team where they straight up benched this motherfucker. He dropped the ball so many times that they just yanked him out of the game and he didn't play. That was the most. 11 drops, most at the wide receiver position. I'm being honest with you, that seems like some fake news. I honestly think it's probably higher than that, and I may have to go back and watch every single one of his games to tell you that. But despite the dropping issues, I think he's going to work on it in the offseason and get the mentals there, because to be honest with you guys, catching a football in the NFL for Diontae Johnson, it's not a skill thing. The motherfucker has the hands to do it. It's the mental aspect. He has to get mentally right. He needs to go and hang out with like a fucking monk inside of some temple to get it right, to get the mentals right. And that's what he needs to do, because he is literally he would just drop a ball, and then the next thing, he's balls deep in his own brain. He's doing mental gymnastics. There's a hamster running in his brain, trying to figure out how to just grip the football when he's been doing it his whole life, and he's a very talented player. When you put the ball in Diontae Johnson's hands, good things are going to happen. So, I really do believe Diontae Johnson's on the up and up in 2021. He had the 25th most 25th most receiving yards at the wide receiver position with 924, 61.6 per game, ranking 25th, and then he had 7 touchdowns, ranking 19th at the wide receiver position. So I really think that with Big Ben back again, we could really see a strong performance out of Diontae Johnson in 2021. Obviously, Chase Claypool should have a big season as well in 2021. He's a guy that I also thought about talking about as a breakout. So, both those guys, very good. Let me know who you guys prefer in your 2021 fantasy football drafts. If you haven't left a comment already, do you want Diontae Johnson, the guy who's slightly older, or Mr. Chase Claypool, the guy who shotgunned the beer via the football after he scored a touchdown, which made me like him a lot more, even though he's with Juju on the Corvette, hop in the motherfucking jet like that. Finally, we got the tight end. You guys know I love my tight ends. I'm going to go with my boy, Mike Licky Amagasicki of my Miami Dolphins. Now, I am not, when it comes to fantasy football, a fucking homer at all. I like the Dolphins, haven't drafted Dolphins players in years. Because back then, the Dolphins were down bad, down tremendous, down astronomical. They were fucking terrible. But now that the Dolphins are good, I'll hop back on board. Now, this is an interesting thing to bring up when it comes to Mike Gesicki. Now, he did end up finishing tight end 7 in PPR, 7.5 PPR, as well as 6 in standard leagues in 15 games, averaging 10.6 PPR points per game, 8.9 half PPR points per game, and 7.1 standard points per game. Now, when you're looking for a breakout at the tight end position, you are hoping that this guy goes from tight end 7 to tight end 4, and he's up there with Kelsey. He's up there with Kittle. He's up there with Darren Waller, because I think there's potential for Andrews to fall out of there. Hopefully, he's good again, because he honestly had a really down year in 2020 compared to 2019. Mr. Mike Gesicki had 85 targets last season, 5.7 per game, ranking 12th at tight end, 53 receptions total, ranking 12th at tight end for 703 total yards, 4th at tight end for a grand total of 6 tugs, ranking 9th at the tight end position. He also had the 3rd highest deep ball rate at the tight end position, and the 2nd highest amount of slot snaps, around 50% of the time. Now, I brought up the slot snaps number because I personally see that going down in 2021 due to, hopefully, us drafting a wide receiver. Or bringing in a wide receiver, because if it's Mike Gesicki and Devontae Parker again, I might blow my fucking brains out, because I don't want to watch that again, because just like with Lamar, these guys are dropping passes left and right. The wide receivers are fucking selling Tua out. But speaking of Tua, this is what I wanted to bring up. This is the interesting tidbit of information for your video. Tua played 9 games with Mike Gesicki. He played 6 without, obviously, with Ryan Fitzmagic. Now, he did average more points per game in half PPR standard as well as PPR with Mr. Fitzpatrick, But interesting enough, he had more targets with Tua, more receptions with Tua. So, makes you think. Maybe if Tua's thrown a bit more accurately, if Tua's beginning to trust Mike Gesicki more, which I believe will happen, then maybe the yards are going to go up, the touchdowns are going to go up. And to me, I think this Dolphins team is going to be very good. Again, I'm a Dolphins fan, but I don't say this. A couple years ago when the Dolphins were shit, I told you they were bad. Now, I wasn't making videos back then, but I would have told you that. So I really believe that Mike Gesicki is going to take the next leap at the tight end position. There was a bunch of interesting tight ends, actually, to talk about as breakouts, but for this one, I wanted to go ahead and have a nice discussion about my boy Mike Licky on my Gesicki. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Again, if you guys did end up enjoying, please hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I ask for you. I love you all, guys. Thank you guys so much. Let's just hope you guys have a great rest of your guys' day. I'm sorry if I said a couple of times in this video. It is a little bit late as I'm recording right now because it is actually late. It's like 3 in the morning. But now, sometimes I would record in the morning, right, and drop like 12 Eastern Standard Time in the afternoon. But now there's a guy come in every single day to, remodel my kitchen. I live with my parents. I'm a fucking nerd, lives with his parents, I know, right? But my upstairs in the kitchen, and it sounds like someone is getting jackhammered up there, like their name was Riley Reed. So you cannot be recording videos during that. So I hope you guys do end up enjoying the late night vibes. Nick at night. Have a great rest of your guys' day. I love you all. Stay safe. Happy Tuesday. Good boy.